Invest in real estate with no money, with no upfront capital. So this is a really hot topic right now, mainly because real estate is super expensive and most people are broke. And the reason they're broke is we're sitting in a $1.5 trillion student loan hole, and a lot of people are coming out of pocket every month to pay these student loan debts. Then they have expensive rent in the city that they live in, car insurance and gas, and the expenses goes on and on and on. But at the end of every month, most people are left in the red. They don't have money. So if you were buying a property, let's say a $300,000 property, and you wanted 20% down, that's 60 grand. And that's not including the closing costs. It's not including the reserves that most lenders like to see. It's not including that emergency fund, none of that. So ideally, you probably want to have 70,000 or 80,000 to buy something for 300K if you're going conventional with 20% down. Some people want to bypass this and go FHA with 3.5% down, which can work, but that's for another video. But what really brought this video to my attention is not only do I hear a lot of other people talking about it, but I was at a restaurant with my wife in Santa Monica, California, just a few months ago, and I'm sitting at one table, and there's a table next to us. 3 young Asian guys, attorneys, just super smart and just polished. And one says to his friend, my parents just don't understand. And he's complaining about renting in Santa Monica. And his parents seemed like strict, goal-oriented, high expectations on their children type of parents. And they're wondering why he's not buying real estate. And the reason is he's probably making $100,000, $150,000, probably making a good living 10 years ago. Unfortunately, it's so expensive today that only gets him an apartment. So he's complaining to his friend, and it just really made me think about the challenges that people have when investing in real estate. So in this, I'm going to share with you one really clear-cut way to buy real estate with no money. And I'm not talking about some, you just go apply and you get the mortgage or anything like that. I'm talking about a value exchange where you are really supplying massive value to an investor and where that investor wants to invest with you. So what I mean by that is you find someone you know, like, and trust, someone that really trusts you, and someone that has money. And then you offer that person a kind of more of like an opportunity, where you say, if I find you an incredible deal, would you invest in this deal? You put up the capital and I'll put up the muscle. I'll put up the legwork. I'll put up everything. I'll put everything else up. I'll find the deal. I'll manage the deal. I'll handle all repair requests. I'll do everything, and give me a small fee to manage the deal. And at the end, we'll plan to sell it in 3 years or 5 years. But at the end, you get 100% of your money back, and then we'll split the profits, 70% you, 30% me. And what this can do for you is not only give you great experience, but it can also kind of leverage your knowledge for a potential upswing in capital and equity. So a lot of people would agree and would be happily inclined to do this deal. I would definitely do this deal if someone brought me an incredible opportunity. I'm talking about the property's worth $1 million and someone brings it to me at $700,000. And I say, you know what, this makes a lot of sense for me, and I see the upside. I think this could go to $1.3 million or $1.4 million. And for me to get all my equity and it's guaranteed against this property, and I'll get a good chunk of the new appreciation, yeah, I'll do that deal. But this isn't going to be one of those deals where you just do nothing. A lot of people just kind of want to do nothing and just get it handed to them. And unfortunately, it doesn't work. And anyone that does promise something like that, where they say, you can put $0 down and just go get this piece of property, you got to be careful, because it's probably one of a few little tricks that they have. The first trick is it's going to be a very high interest rate loan. So it's not going to be like a 4% or a 4.5% rate. It might be a 6% or 7% rate. So they say there's no money down, but they're making 3 percentage points off you every month they're holding the property. And on the back end, they're probably selling it to you a little bit more than it's worth. So they're double dipping on you, and they're essentially charging you a hell of a lot more money than what you'd be paying with a down payment. The second is, I was driving in San Francisco just a few days ago and I saw a billboard that said zerodown.com. So I looked them up, and what they do is They want you to lease a house or lease a property from them for 5 years or 7 years, and they're going to apply a percentage of the gross rents towards your purchase. So smart for them, because they solidify a 5 or 7 year contract with you to lease the property, knowing that after a couple of years you're likely going to move and they're never going to end up selling you the property anyway. They just locked you in to a high price lease. So this is not a zero money down type of situation, although that's what it implies. So you want to be careful of that trick. You want to be careful of the interest rate tricks. What mortgage lender honestly is going to want to give property away with no security? So what a down payment does for a Chase Bank or a Bank of America is when you buy a property and you put 20% down, that 20% equity they have in that property, if the market moves 10% or 15%, they're able to sell the property, foreclose on you, sell the property, pay the agents, pay the fees, pay everything, and get all their money back. And then they were able to collect interest off of you every single month throughout the period of you holding the property. Now, if you buy a property with zero money down, say it's a $100,000 property, and the market drops by 10%, right? Now it's at $90,000 property, and you say, you know what, forget it, I'm walking away. Then they have to sell the property and hire our realtors, and they pay all the fees, the county transfer taxes, they start paying all the escrow fees and everything else associated. Before you know it, they lost 20%. They lost 15% on lending to you. And so what type of consumer do they attract if they're saying no money down loans? They're attracting a lot of people that have no money. So a lot of the people that have no money, unfortunately, are a little bit unstable in the eyes of a lending institution, because if something comes up, if a rainy day happens, if a medical issue happens and they have no source of income, then the bank is going to be in some real trouble. The bank is going to be in some real trouble. So that's why they like to see you put 20% down. Now, if you put 3.5% down, they'll still do the deal. They'll still do the deal in most circumstances, but be aware that you're going to be paying PMI, which is mortgage insurance, and that ultimately gives the bank peace of mind, because they're collecting a fee off of you every single month until you have 20% equity. Now, what equity is the difference between what the property is really worth versus what you owe on the property. Now, if the property is $100,000, you owe $80,000, you have 20% equity. So that is the number they're really looking for, is that 20% equity position. So with all that said, I know it can be attractive to try to find ways to invest in real estate with no money. And everybody really wants to kind of get rich and kind of get stuff going, because they realize the world is getting so damn expensive and they don't want to be renting forever. And that makes perfect sense too. But how business works is it's a value exchange. You have to give value to get value. No one's just going to give you anything. That's just how it goes. So I would highly suggest learning your market, learning this market, whatever market you're in, so well. You should be able to drive up and down every street, know what investors are active, what they're buying, what they're not buying, what their plan is to increase the value of the property. Are there developments happening? Is there new attractions, tourist attractions, metro stations, anything happening? Learn everything you possibly can and see what's happening with the city. Are they changing zoning laws? Are they doing anything different? And learn everything you possibly can. And I would probably do this for a good 6 months, really a good 6 months. And what this is gonna do is, when you learn everything that's happening in your market, and then you go sit down with a potential lead, a potential investor, and you bring a deal to that investor and you say, I think this is a really good deal because of this. And then you explain everything that's happening in the neighborhood, and then say, but before we continue the conversation further, I want to discuss a lot of the risk and a lot of the things that could happen that would hurt the desirability, the outcome of this. But if this does happen, this is how we navigate, and this is how we still remain profitable. So there is no investment that's going to be 100% home run. I mean, there'll be 95%, but there's always things that can go wrong. And whenever you're having a conversation with an investor, make sure that you're talking about what can go wrong. And the reason you want to do that is because really substantiates your intelligence, and it shows that you're someone that sees both sides of the coin. And they know that you're aware of things that can go wrong, and that's going to make them be more inclined to want to work with you because they know you're not naive and just looking to invest and deploy capital that's not any of your own into another property. So always protect your investors, and that's how I would start off if I were starting with zero money down. That's exactly how I'd start off. So please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much.